Hello again, and welcome to another installment of Homeland Security Today's Profiles in Excellence. We're very happy today to introduce you to Battalion Chief Derrick Phillips, who is with the St. Louis Fire Department. Chief Phillips was nominated, I think, by some of his staff, but we were so glad to meet him and get to know his tremendous work. Many in the fire services already know him. He has innumerable accomplishments and contributions to his field, but what he was nominated for is a thesis, the completion of which was about fire service intelligence processes. And so when we received his nominations, we were just thrilled because this type of work is definitely not the stuff that makes the front page of the paper. This is not, saving that cat from the tree or saving the little baby. This is the stuff that helps fire services all across the nation do their jobs better and make sure that they can get to that person and save that life. So we are extremely proud to have him with us today and talk a little bit more about the First Responder Joint Intelligence Guide that came from his work. And also how his findings have helped fire services all across the nation. So welcome, Chief Phillips. It is just an honor to meet you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. So I will dig right in because I know you're busy and you probably get phone calls all the time for advice and conversations. So first, I just wanted to ask you a little bit. Your work has tremendously benefited fire services to respond better to any emergency. What inspired you to kind of pursue this and get a thesis in this?
Well, it's a few different things that kind of inspired me to do a thesis based on fire service intelligence. One is we do a lot of response drills, a lot of them full-scale exercises and things like that. And in some of those exercises, we always seemed like we were one or two steps behind. So it's a joint exercise. So you're working with law enforcement, EMS, other agencies or whatever, but it always seemed like law enforcement was one or two steps ahead of us. And they were able to actually act and do things more quickly than we could. Some of the results that came out of that, where we found out that they actually had an intelligence aspect to it that we were not privy to, prior to the actual full-scale exercise. So they could start planning once they got that intelligence information on what could possibly happen, how many people were going to be involved in different things like that. Well, we were more reactive to everything that we saw, which is kind of how the fire service works in general. But the more information that we can have ahead of time, the more likely we can plan for it. And then we have better results that's going to keep our people safer and then save more lives on the back end.
Absolutely.
Another aspect of it is recently, and this has been happening throughout the United States, it was about the civil unrest all throughout the United States. We had ours here with Ferguson after Mike Brown, and then some other ones in St. Louis area, mainly with police involved shootings and things like that. And what we found is that we can actually get information out to our personnel by utilizing just real simple intelligence gathering through TweetDeck and different things like that. Just type in keywords, and that way we can get information out to our troops out on the line and say, hey, the protesters are moving in this direction. Can you go around the block or come in from a different way? Kind of give them turn by turn information on what the protesters were doing, so we get the situational awareness, and then we can keep our personnel safe. So it's just a number of different things that kind of came up that kind of pushed me to do something on fire service intelligence.
That's fascinating. I think a lot of people would be surprised to hear the role of the fire department in civil unrest. So that's an interesting piece. Brian Tyner, do you know Chief Brian Tyner in Minneapolis? He actually won an award from HS Today as well, and it was mostly based on the response of the fire department to civil unrest. So that's fascinating. I think a lot of people don't realize your role in that. So from your research, the First Responder Joint Intelligence Guide was created, and that was the result of your thesis. And how is that helping departments across the country?
So really the reason I did it was because one of my intelligence courses, they have what they call the Joint Intelligence Guide that the military uses. And this is for all branches of the military. We kind of use the same publication. Um, so I was looking at something that we could probably use in the fire service that served that same purpose. The problem that I was looking at in a different thesis that came prior to mine was they all concentrated on large cities. No, and that's understandable, thinking that if something happens, it's going to be in a large population center. But it kind of discounts some of the planning processes, some of the acquisition processes where they may be in suburban or rural areas or whatever, where the bad actors are trying to plan and gather things for their attacks. So everything that was focused on large departments and a lot of the mid-sized and small departments were totally left out. To this day, a lot of them are still kind of in the dark on in gathering intelligence. So this guide was basically set up. It took information from every geographical area in the United States, every size department, whether it was volunteer, career, combination, anything like that, and then try to put all of the information together to where no matter what size department you are, no matter where you're located geographically, you could take bits and pieces of this plan and then build your own intelligence requirements, so you can get the intelligence that you need for your jurisdiction.
That's excellent. Information sharing has really, since 9/11, become more and more important. It's quite a few years out from 9/11. What are some of the the key things that are effective to information sharing for the fire services?
But one thing that I found out is most of the fire service doesn't understand how intelligence is driven, and it's driven by requirements. If you don't tell the producer what type of intelligence you need, then it's not going to be relevant. It's not going to be timely, and you really can't do anything with it. So that was one of the things. Second aspect of it was not knowing how to handle that finished intelligence once you got it. It's always handling requirements that goes on along with that, how you can handle it, because the fire service tends to disseminate information more broadly than law enforcement. You know, we just it's just the nature of the fire service. We want everybody to have all of the information so we can all act and think and become of the same accord. So those were a few of the main issues um, that I saw with intelligence and information sharing. Um, Another one was, even though we have like 80 fusion centers, somewhere around 80 fusion centers, they're not all co-located with fire departments. I mean, we have thousands of fire departments all across the United States, and they don't really have access to the fusion center. So that kind of creates a barrier to information sharing as well.
I'm very surprised to hear that, actually. I would think you're one of the top dogs in that in the information sharing. But I have worked on information sharing for many years, and it gets so incredibly complicated when, especially on the law enforcement side, people are worried about, well, what if the wrong person got the intelligence? And it sounds
Exactly.
like you literally have the opposite attitude, which is, we need as many people to have this information as possible so we can all do better. And I think we actually need more of that and less of the other. But yeah, that's been a bane of information sharing's existence, is like, who's going to get it and why they should be able to get it. And often that delay defeats the purpose. So how does your guide serve both large and small agencies? Because it is scalable. And you mentioned that part of the reason that you even started was because most of it was for large departments. So how does your guide allow small departments or any size departments to benefit?
So with my guide, the biggest part of it is a detailed list of intelligence requirements. So basically, you can pick and choose any just bits and pieces of those requirements that match your jurisdiction. So that makes it much easier. It's easier to get that information out. Whether you have a local fusion center, it really doesn't matter, because it's a state-funded fusion center everywhere. So you can just send your requirements to that state for funded fusion center and then get the information back. But it's going to be driven by those requirements. So that is the biggest key for that intelligence guide, is to actually have I would say, just like a buffet of different intelligence requirements that you could pick and choose from. You don't have to really think about them or word them anyway. Just pick it and then and send it, and you're ready to start receiving intelligence.
So that's literally how the departments would plug in. They would look at the guide, they would find the requirements that match their needs, and then they would plug into the Fusion Center. Is that correct?
Correct.
Excellent. Okay. So what, like now that you've taken care of information sharing for fire services, what's your next big plan?
Ooh,
What are you
well, I
going
have
to
a lot of
next,
different
Chief?
big plans. I don't know how close I'm going to get to achieving them. So one of the things I was working on, and my instructors are helping me out a great deal with it. Um, I was applying for a fellowship at the Geneva Center for Security Policy over in Switzerland, and I was going to look at some different things as far as like one of it is the civil unrest, kind of domestic terrorism, things like that. But I want to use a specific frame, which is a social identity frame. You know, how do people socially identify with these different groups? You know, we have all these different groups that's coming around now, the QAnon, the Proud Boys, and a bunch of different groups that's out there now, but you really don't understand why they think the way they think, how they think, what reinforces the attitudes in the group, things like that. So social identity theory actually helps to break all of that out, because it's just, you know, looking at those different markers and identifiers to kind of flush out what the organization is about and what their end game is. You know, what's their desired end state. And then once you have that information, you can work backwards and then come up with a plan to try to counter what they're doing. So that's one of them.
Excellent.
Another one, a job opportunity just got posted here for deputy fire chief. So I'm preparing myself for that role. So I'm studying for that. And then I'm also re-enrolling back in Arkansas State. I had like 2 classes left to finish my MPA there. So I'm re-enrolling in that because I took a brief break while I was going through the Naval Postgraduate School. Couldn't do both at the same time, especially with the thesis. So I have 2 classes left. I should have that done by October. Then I have my second master's within 1 year period. So.
Wow, you are busy. You are busy. This is fantastic, though. I have a feeling that whatever you put your mind to, you're going to accomplish. So,
I try.
So, what has been your proudest moment so far?
I would probably say my proudest moment is actually getting this thesis completed. It was a long, tough process, and trust me, I wanted to quit several times because I have, you know, one of the toughest, you know, not advisor, but instructors that was actually over our research part of it, where we was actually coming up with the thesis proposal, not even the thesis itself, just the proposal of what you were going to write about. And it was just difficult. It's like, you know, pulling your hair out, and I don't even have any hair. So, but hey, she's great. I love her to death because it helped me to become a better writer. It helped me to kind of think in a different way, to where I can kind of simplify things and not be so complex and all over the place with my writing, because I tend to do that. You know, my mind is always thinking about different things or whatever, and then it shows up in my writing. So she really helped out with that. But I think that was the most proud thing that I've done, is actually completed that thesis.
Excellent. And what was your toughest moment?
Toughest moment. Recently, I haven't really had any real tough moments. You know, I don't look at, it's just the way I think. I look at things that's not necessarily issues or problems, but maybe challenges or whatever, and then I just attack it. Like it's something I just have to solve or whatever. So I don't really look at it in that aspect. It was kind of difficult to try to work at the same time that we were going to school, because you know had to be away from work for 2 weeks when you do your in residence, and then you have so much homework and so much reading, so much writing that you have to do it at the master's level. And this is a really, really tough program. It's 55 credit hour program in 18 months. So it's really, really structured. But trying to do that in a full-time job and then still have some semblance of a social life, it was really, really tough. But I think the benefits outweighed any issues or any, you know, challenges I have in going through the program.
Well, I'm thrilled to hear that you don't have a lot of worst moments. I love hearing that. That's excellent. So what are some of your words of advice for fire service professionals? And then also for those interested in a career in fire services, because you are certainly a role model. And we're going to share this interview with some of the county schools that we're working with, that have kids that are interested in going into the first responder or the fire services. So first, your advice to other fire service professionals, maybe about the guide or not, and then those interested in a career.
Well, my advice to other fire services is to keep an open mind. We tend to be traditional. We tend to rely on different things that we've been doing since the beginning of the fire service back in the 1800s in the United States. My department has been around since 1857. So it's a long time to be stuck in the old days of doing things. And it's how the fire department or how fire service tends to be traditionalist. It's a lot of research out there now, research-based firefighting, that actually shows us a better way to do our job. It helps us to keep our personnel safe. So I would say keep an open mind, conduct some of your own research, take the research that's already out there and then test it. It's there and it's research, so you can test it in a controlled environment in your training tower or whatever to see if it really does pan out for you. Consider changing some of your policies and procedures. Um, Definitely develop a risk management plan for your department, because your greatest asset is your personnel, and if you keep them safe, they're going to take care of the citizens for you. For someone that's looking to get into the fire service, it's different pretty much everywhere you go, but there are some key things you can do. First thing is to graduate from high school. That's number one. Get your education. You want to graduate from high school, get your nose in the books, do the best you can, get the best grades you can. Second, I would say probably get an EMT license. You can start getting an EMT license at 18 years old. That'll get your foot in the door in most fire services. And then most of them require you to have it anyway. So you have one part of that part of the job down once you become an EMT. We hire EMTs here on a regular basis. Some of those actually do transfer over to the fire side after 2 or 3 years or whatever. So that's a really good way to get your foot in the door. They also have different recruitment programs that you can kind of get into. So if you really want to get into the fire service, start looking at some of the recruitment programs they actually have, and it'll give you step-by-step information on everything that you need to do. I can't get you the link for one of them that I know of, and I could probably send that to you a little bit later if you want to share it with those students.
Sure.
But definitely look into that, because they will start kind of grooming you for the job in the fire service and opening your eyes to the different roles in the fire service. It's not just about putting on the bunker gear and riding on the red fire truck, running down the street to put out fires. We do a whole lot more than that. It's a lot of different avenues into the fire service. Once you get here, there's a lot of different career paths that you can actually take. We have dispatchers, EMTs, paramedics. We have fire inspectors, of course, the firefighters, and then that's career growth from there to become a company officer, battalion chief, deputy chief, or whatever. So all of that's going to require more education, which is why you still continue to go to school, get your associates, bachelor's, master's, or wherever you want to get it, however you want to get it. But it's going to require more work. It's definitely going to require more work. Either you're going to do certifications or you're going to do it through formal education. The choice is yours.
And so how many, what are all your degrees? I kind of picked up second master's degree. Is that right?
So I have an associate's in business administration. I have a bachelor of science in business administration / management. Then I have a master of arts in security studies from the Naval Postgraduate School, which I just got that conferred in December of 2020. And then I have a master of public administration this October.
Oh, excellent. A fellow MPA person. I'm an MPA too. That's awesome. You, as I said, you are just a tremendous example for young people, for other departments, and certainly for others who are looking for ways to give back to the fire services. I mean, I think the the thesis, took you on this incredible journey. And now we have information sharing for the fire services, which is tremendous. So I hope you'll do a webinar on that for us. You know, I'd love to work with you in the future, share what you've done and help departments understand what it is. And I just want to congratulate you again and thank you for your role in protecting America and protecting the citizens of your community. You are a tremendous asset to our country, and I just thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I'm sure that everyone in your community wants to herald you as well. So congratulations again on the award, and we hope to see much more from you in the future.
Thank you. And I'm looking forward to the webinar.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Chief. Have a wonderful day.
You too.